The galaxy had one unbreakable rule: never wake the monsters. But no one told the Vorith. They came in swarms, claws dripping acid, believing they were the apex predators, until they met them. 3 humans. Unarmed, unafraid. The Vorith learned the hard way what happens when Deathworlders stop playing nice. By the time the screaming started, it was already too late. And as the station burned around them, Commander Kale finally understood this wasn't an invasion. It was a mistake. And the humans were about to teach the entire galaxy a lesson written in blood. Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCar button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button. Right now, hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land. Alright, let's dive into the story. The observation deck of the Galactic Federation's training station overlooked a brutal landscape, a simulated war zone of jagged cliffs, acid pools, and shifting gravity wells. Commander Kale Vexus, his 4 eyes reflecting the dim glow of holographic data streams, clenched his mandibles as he watched the new cadets assemble below. Among the crowd of sleek, armored aliens, Xenthians with their scaled hides, the floating crystalline Dravari, the biomechanical Kissari, stood 3 figures that made his exoskeleton itch. Humans. Lieutenant Mira Soren stepped beside him, her form-fitting black combat suit accentuating every curve of her powerful frame. Her dark hair was pulled into a tight braid, and her sharp green eyes gleamed with amusement. "You're staring again, Commander." Kale's upper set of eyes twitched. "They don't look like much. Just soft." Mira smirked. "That's what the last instructor said." Right before the human cadets broke his pride and his ribs. Below, the 3 humans stood relaxed amidst the rigid, nervous postures of their alien peers. Jace Mercer, a broad-shouldered man with scarred knuckles and ice-blue eyes, rolled his neck with a loud crack. "So, we just stand here until someone tells us what's next?" Beside him, Naomi Cross, fiery red hair tied back, a smirk permanently etched on her lips, shrugged. "Relax, Jace. They're probably still trying to figure out if we're a biohazard." Darius Kane, a mountain of a man with a silent, brooding presence, simply crossed his arms. His dark eyes scanned the terrain like a predator sizing up prey. A sharp whistle cut through the air. The Xenthian drill sergeant, a towering reptile with crimson scales, hissed as he addressed the cadets. "First trial, survival sprint. Cross the acid flats without losing limbs or your dignity." The alien cadets tensed. The Dravari floated nervously, their crystalline bodies shimmering with anxiety. The Kessari adjusted their limb actuators with mechanical precision. Naomi stretched her arms behind her head. "Acid, huh? That's cute." Jace grinned. "Back on Earth, we used to play in worse during recess." Darius cracked his knuckles. "Let's go." The signal blared. The aliens surged forward, some leaping, others slithering, all desperate to avoid the bubbling acid pits. The humans? They didn't run. They moved. Jace took the shortest path, straight through a thin layer of acid, his boots hissing as the corrosive liquid splashed. He didn't flinch. Naomi vaulted over a jagged rock, landing in a roll before springing up like a coiled spring. Darius simply plowed through, his reinforced boots crushing brittle terrain underfoot. The Xenthian sergeant's slit pupils dilated. Impossible. Their flesh should be melting. Mira leaned on the observation railing, her smirk widening. "Told you." Kale's mandibles clicked in agitation. "This isn't natural. No species adapts that fast." Mira tilted her head. "Humans don't adapt, Commander. They dominate." Below, Jace reached the finish line first, wiping acid splatter off his sleeve like it was rainwater. Naomi flipped off a stunned Dravari as she passed it. Darius simply stood at the end, arms crossed, as if the trial had bored him. The alien cadets stared in disbelief. One Xenthian whispered, "What are they?" Jace heard it. He turned, his grin sharp as a blade. Welcome to Death World 101. And somewhere in the back of Kale's mind, a warning bell rang. This wasn't just training. It was a lesson, and the galaxy was about to learn it the hard way. The training hall buzzed with tension as the cadets gathered for their next trial. The air smelled of ozone and sweat, the walls lined with observation drones capturing every movement. The Zynthian drill sergeant, Sergeant Vral, slithered to the center of the room, his forked tongue flicking out in anticipation. Obstacle course, he hissed. Flaming hoops, gravity shifts, electrified walls. Standard procedure for elite forces. Let's see if your soft flesh can handle real combat conditions. A murmur rippled through the alien cadets. The Dravari crystals dimmed slightly, their usual glow fading with nervous energy. The Kesari adjusted their limb actuators with mechanical precision, preparing for optimal performance. Naomi stretched her arms, rolling her shoulders with a lazy grin. "Ah, look, they made us a playground." Jace cracked his knuckles, the sound like gunshots in the quiet hall. "Try not to embarrass them too much." Darius simply stared at the course, his dark eyes calculating trajectories, weaknesses, opportunities. The first team, a group of Zynthians, moved through the course with reptilian grace. They twisted through flaming hoops, their scales resistant to the heat, and adapted quickly to the shifting gravity. They finished with smug hisses, confident in their superiority. Next came the Kesari. Their biomechanical bodies handled the electricity with ease, their limbs adjusting to counter the gravity shifts. They finished just seconds behind the Zynthians, their optical sensors glowing with satisfaction. Then it was the humans' turn. The moment the starting buzzer sounded, the three of them exploded into motion. Jace didn't dodge the flaming hoops. He charged straight through them, the fire licking harmlessly at his sleeves. He hit the gravity shift zone and didn't stumble, didn't falter. His body adjusted instantly, his muscles compensating like he'd trained in variable gravity his entire life. Naomi scaled the electrified wall like it was nothing, her fingers gripping the charged surface without so much as a flinch. The current should have sent her convulsing to the ground. Instead, she laughed, the sound bright and wild. "Oh, that tickles." Darius reached the gravity simulator, a device designed to disorient and destabilize. He didn't try to adapt. He planted his feet, braced his body, and pushed. The machine whined, then sparked, then shattered under the sheer force of his resistance. The alien cadets stared, their earlier confidence crumbling into disbelief. One of the Dravari pulsed a pale blue, their equivalent of stunned silence. Sergeant Vral's scales flushed a darker red, his tail lashing. Impossible. No organic species can override a gravity simulator. From the observation deck, Commander Kale's grip tightened on the railing. His four eyes tracked the humans with growing unease. This isn't just physical adaptation. This is something else. Beside him, Mira crossed her arms, her smirk knowing. "Told you they'd break your expectations." Below, Jace reached the end of the course first, barely winded. He turned, raising an eyebrow at the stunned aliens. "That it? We barely got warmed up." Naomi landed beside him, stretching her arms behind her head. "I was hoping for a challenge. Guess we'll have to make our own fun." Darius didn't speak. He didn't need to. The shattered remains of the gravity simulator spoke for him. The silence in the hall was deafening. Then, from the back of the room, one of the younger Zynthian cadets whispered, "What are they?" Jace met the cadet's wide-eyed gaze, his grin sharp enough to cut glass. "Humans," he said, as if that explained everything. And in that moment, the galaxy's most dangerous lesson began to sink in. Never underestimate a Death Worlder, especially one that's just getting started. The medbay's sterile white lights hummed overhead as the three humans were ushered in for mandatory post-training scans. Alien medical equipment whirred and clicked, their strange designs looking more like abstract art than functional technology. Dr. Zell, a delicate orchid-like being with bioluminescent petals, fluttered nervously as she prepared the examination tables. "Please," she chimed in her melodic voice, "remove your upper armor for full biometric analysis." Naomi smirked, already pulling off her combat vest. "Careful, document. You might not be ready for all this." Jace rolled his eyes as he shrugged out of his gear. "Down, girl. She's a plant. Plants have eyes, don't they?" Naomi winked at the now flustered Dr. Zell, whose petals turned a deep violet. Darius remained silent, methodically removing his armor to reveal a torso mapped with scars that made even the hardened Kisuri medics pause. The scanning began. Holographic displays flickered to life, projecting intricate diagrams of human anatomy. Dr. Zell's petals trembled as the data streamed in. This can't be correct." Her tendrils danced across the controls, recalibrating. "Your bone density is 28% higher than any recorded species. Your muscle fibers regenerate at impossible rates. And your pain receptors, adaptive." Jace interrupted, flexing his hand. "Yeah, we know." Naomi leaned back on the exam table, arms behind her head. "Hurts less when you stop caring." Dr. Zell's central stalk wobbled. "But that's not how neurology works. Pain is a warning system." Darius finally spoke, his voice like gravel. "On Earth, warnings are just suggestions." The scans continued, revealing deeper anomalies. Brain activity spiked, not in fear responses, but in focused aggression. Adrenal glands showed no signs of fatigue. Dr. Zell's petals paled to a sickly white. "You're not just resistant to trauma," she whispered. "You're optimized for it." From the doorway, Commander Kale watched with mounting unease. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of distress. There has to be an explanation. No species evolves like this naturally. Mira, leaning against the wall with arms crossed, gave a dark chuckle. "You're right. They didn't evolve. They survived." The humans exchanged glances. A silent conversation passed between them. Naomi sighed dramatically. "Fine, since you're all so curious." Jace cut her off with a sharp look. "Not here." The tension in the room spiked. Dr. Zell's equipment suddenly blared an alarm. "By the roots," she gasped. "Your stress hormones just inverted. That's biologically impossible." Darius stood, the exam table groaning under his weight. "Run the scan again." But the readings run it again. The second scan showed something worse. Where normal species would show fear responses, the human's neural patterns lit up with something else entirely. Anticipation, excitement, hunger. Kale took an involuntary step back. "This isn't adaptation. This is predation." Naomi's grin showed too many teeth. "Now you're getting it." The medbay doors suddenly slammed open. A panting Xinthian cadet stumbled in, scales flushed panic red. "Commander, pirate ships, they're breaching the outer defenses." The humans were already moving, grabbing their gear with practiced ease. Jace checked his plasma rifle's charge. "About damn time." Naomi cracked her neck. "Guess we'll finish this lesson later." Darius simply smiled. And in that moment, the aliens realized their terrible mistake. They hadn't been testing the humans. The humans had been testing them. Alarm klaxons wailed through the station like wounded animals, their shrill pulses cutting through the chaos. The overhead lights flickered to emergency red, painting the corridors in bloody shadows. Somewhere in the distance, the metallic groan of stressed bulkheads screamed through the station's bones. Naomi tightened the straps on her gauntlets with her teeth, her voice muffled but dripping with excitement. "Took these bastards long enough." Jace slammed a fresh power cell into his plasma rifle, the weapon humming to life with a dangerous blue glow. "You think it's the Black Fong Syndicate? They've been sniffing around this sector." Darius didn't bother answering. He was already moving toward the armory, his heavy footsteps vibrating through the deck plates. Commander Kale's voice crackled through the comms, distorted by interference. "All personnel to defensive positions." Multiple breaching pods detected on decks 7 through. The transmission dissolved into static. Mira appeared at the intersection ahead, her sleek combat suit now augmented with tactical armor. She tossed Jace a grenade belt. "You three, with me. We're the only ones crazy enough for point defense." Naomi caught a stray grenade midair. "Ah, you do care." The station shuddered violently as something massive impacted the outer hull. The gravity fluctuated for a heart-stopping second before stabilizing. Somewhere behind them, a group of Dravari cadets floated helplessly in the zero-G pocket, their crystalline forms clinking together in panic. Jace grabbed a drifting Kesari by its actuator arm. "Where's the breach?" The mechanical alien's voice box spat static. "D-Deck 9. There! They're eating through the hull." Darius didn't wait. He was already sprinting down the corridor, his massive frame moving with terrifying speed. The others barely kept pace as they rounded the corner to Deck 9 and froze. The hallway looked like a war zone. Smoldering craters pockmarked the walls where pirate plasma cutters had burned through. The air reeked of ozone and something coppery, blood, but not any species the humans recognized. And there, at the center of the carnage, stood the boarding party. Not pirates, not mercenaries. Vorith, Mira breathed, her hand tightening on her pulse pistol. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, their chitinous black armor fused to their insectoid bodies. For glowing red eyes scanned the hallway as their mandibles clicked in anticipation. Acid dripped from their clawed hands, eating through the deck plating with hissing plumes of smoke. One of them turned, its armored head tilting at the humans. When it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding bones. "Fleshlings, you will be assimilated." Naomi's grin turned feral. "Oh honey, you couldn't assimilate a salad." The Vorith charged. What happened next wasn't a battle. It was a revelation. Jace moved like liquid death, his plasma rifle barking in short, controlled bursts. Each shot found a chink in the Vorith armor, punching through with surgical precision. Naomi danced between the creatures, her vibro blades flashing. Where the alien's acid claws struck, she twisted away with impossible reflexes, countering with strikes that severed limbs at the joints. Darius? He didn't bother with weapons. The first Vorith that reached him died when his fist shattered its thorax plate. The second, he grabbed him by the head and slammed spine first into the ceiling. The third looked into Darius's eyes and tried to run. Myra's pistol dropped the fleeing creature with a single shot to its neural cluster. She stared at the carnage, her breath coming fast. "You three, you weren't even trying in training, were you?" Jace ejected a spent power cell. "Where's the fun in that?" A new sound cut through the station's groans, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated in their bones. The lights flickered again, then died completely, plunging them into darkness save for the emergency strips along the floor. Naomi's blade ignited with a soft blue glow, illuminating her sharp features. "That's not the pirates." Darius tilted his head, listening to something beyond human hearing. "Ship, big one." The comms crackled again, Kale's voice strained. "All units, fall back to a sound like tearing metal drowned him out, followed by a scream that cut off abruptly. Myra's face went pale. The command deck. Jace was already moving. Change of plans. We're not defending. Naomi fell in beside him, her blades humming. "We're hunting." Darius cracked his knuckles. The sound echoed like gunshots in the dark, and as one, the Deathworlders advanced into the belly. Vorith warriors had pinned down the remaining Federation personnel behind overturned consoles. Commander Kale crouched behind the main tactical display, his 4 eyes wide with something no one had ever seen in them before: fear. At the center of the room stood a new horror. Towering over even the Vorith, its obsidian carapace pulsed with bioluminescent veins. 6 segmented limbs ended in razor-sharp blades, and its elongated head swiveled with mechanical precision. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once, vibrating in their teeth. Ah, the Death Worlders. Naomi's blades snapped into ready positions. Well, shit, someone gave the cockroach a megaphone. The creature, clearly the Vorth commander, tilted its head. You amuse me. That will make your assimilation more entertaining. Jace's rifle found its mark, center mass. Let's dance, ugly. The firefight erupted in an instant. Federation troops seized the opportunity to counterattack, their plasma fire joining the humans' assault. But the Vorth commander moved like a liquid shadow, dodging shots with one caught Mira across the shoulder, sending her spinning into a console with a cry of pain. Naomi saw red. Her next attack wasn't tactical. It wasn't precise. It was pure, unfiltered rage. She moved like a hurricane, her blades finding every gap in the creature's defenses. When it backhanded her into a wall hard enough to crack the reinforced plating, she just laughed through bloody teeth and came back harder. Jace switched tactics, his shots now aimed at the overhead conduits. Superheated plasma met coolant lines, and the resulting explosion showered the Vorth commander in liquid nitrogen. Its carapace cracked audibly from the thermal shock. Darius seized the moment. His next punch didn't just hit, it obliterated. The Vorth commander's chest cavity collapsed inward, ichor spraying in thick ropes as it crashed to the deck. Its limbs twitched before finally going still. Silence fell over the command deck. Then, from the smoking ruin of the Vorth commander's corpse, a final transmission crackled through its comms. A voice steep and ancient spoke a single word, interesting. The comms went dead. Naomi wiped blood from her mouth. Anyone else get the feeling we just got promoted from nuisance to problem? Kale rose shakily from cover, his mandibles clicking rapidly. You killed a Vorth Highblade. That's impossible. Jace ejected his spent power cell. Yeah, we get that a lot. Outside the viewports, the massive, unknown ship that had caused the power outage began to move, its silhouette blocking out the stars as it turned toward open space. Mira struggled to her feet, clutching her bleeding shoulder. They're leaving. What? Darius watched the retreating ship, his expression unreadable. Testing. The word hung in the air like a threat. And for the first time since the humans had arrived, every alien in the room understood one terrible truth. This hadn't been an attack. It had been a probe, and whatever was coming next would be much, much worse. The medical bay had become a war zone of its own, overflowing with wounded, the air thick with the metallic tang of blood and the acrid sting of antiseptics. Dr. Zell's petals had turned a sickly gray from exhaustion as she fluttered between patients, her delicate limbs stained with various alien fluids. Naomi sat perched on an examination table, wincing as a medical droid stitched up the gash on her ribs. Hey doc, any chance you got something stronger than alien band-aids? Jace leaned against the wall nearby, his ice blue eyes tracking every movement in the room. Quit whining. You've had worse from paper cuts. Paper cuts. Dr. Zell's petals flared in alarm. Your species has paper that can. Mira stormed in, her shoulder freshly bandaged, a data pad clutched in her good hand. We got problems. Big ones. Darius, who had been silently observing from the corner, straightened. Ship. Worse. Mira slapped the pad onto a console, bringing up a holographic display. That wasn't just any Vorth raiding party. We intercepted their transmission before they jumped. The display showed a star map with a single blood-red vector leading deep into uncharted space. Jace's jaw tightened. That's a homing beacon. Naomi hopped off the table, ignoring the droid's protests. So the bug parade was just the opening act? Mira zoomed the display further. The vector ended at a massive spaceborne structure, organic and mechanical fused in a grotesque mockery of technology. The Vorth Hive Nexus. And thanks to our little performance, They've tagged this station as a priority target. Commander Kale entered, his exoskeleton still bearing scorch marks from the battle. His 4 eyes focused on the display with dawning horror. They'll send a swarm fleet. We need to evacuate immediately. Naomi barked a laugh. Run? After we just kicked their asses? You don't understand. Kale's mandibles quivered. A swarm fleet numbers in the thousands. They'll strip this station molecule by molecule. Jace exchanged glances with Darius, then nodded. Then we don't let them reach the station. Myra's eyebrows shot up. You're not suggesting take the fight to them, Darius rumbled. The medical bay fell silent. Even the wounded stopped moaning to stare. Dr. Zell's petals trembled. That's suicide. Naomi cracked her knuckles. Nah, suicide would be sitting here waiting to get eaten. She turned to Kale. You got any ships fast enough to reach that nexus before the swarm mobilizes? Kale looked like he might be sick. The experimental stealth corvette. But it's never been field tested. Jace grinned. Perfect. We'll christen it with bug guts. Mira shook her head, but a reluctant smile tugged at her lips. You're all insane. Darius moved toward the door. We'll need weapons. Already on it. Mira tapped her comm. Armory prepped the classified vault. Authorization, Siren 79er. Kale's eyes widened. You can't mean to give them the X-42 Predator armor? The plasma lances? The neural disruptors? Naomi fluttered her eyelashes. Be still, my beating heart. Jace checked a sidearm. How soon can we launch? Mira consulted her pad. 3 hours to prep the ship and load the gear. Darius paused at the doorway. 2. As the humans moved to prepare, the alien medical staff watched in stunned silence. One young Xinthian medic turned to Dr. Zell. They're really going to attack the Hive Nexus? Just 4 of them. From across the room, Naomi called back without turning around. 3, actually. Myra's just coming to watch. Myra's protest was loud and colorful. And for the first time since the attack began, the medical bay erupted in laughter. Nervous, slightly hysterical, but genuine. As the humans disappeared down the corridor, Kale stared after them, his voice barely above a whisper. They're either going to save us all, or doom us completely. Dr. Zell's petals slowly turned a hopeful blue. Perhaps both. The stealth Corvette Revenant slipped through the void like a shadow, its blackened hull absorbing all radar pings and energy signatures. Inside the cramped cockpit, Naomi lounged in the pilot's seat, her boots propped up on the console as she monitored their approach. 10 clicks to the Hive Nexus, she announced, chewing on a strip of synthetic protein. And by the way, whoever designed this bucket clearly never heard of legroom. Jace adjusted the power flow to the plasma lances, his face bathed in the weapon's crimson glow. Complain to the engineers when we get back. If we get back, Mira muttered, strapped into the co-pilot's seat. Her fingers danced across the tactical display, marking Vorth patrol patterns. I can't believe I let you talk me into this. Darius stood like a statue between them, his massive frame clad in the experimental X-42 armor, a matte black exoskeleton that made him look more machine than man. Quiet. The command wasn't harsh, just final. Everyone fell silent as the Nexus filled the viewport. It was worse than the holograms had shown. The structure pulsed like a living thing, its spires twisting into impossible shapes, its surface crawling with Vorth workers. Energy conduits throbbed with sickly green light, and the sheer scale of it made even Naomi's cocky grin falter for half a second. Jace exhaled slowly. Well, shit. Myra's hands froze over the controls. There's no way this ends well. Naomi cracked her neck. Since when do we do things that end well? The Revenant shuddered as it docked with a nearly invisible maintenance hatch, the only vulnerable point Myra's scans had detected. The airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor lined with organic-looking tendrils that twitched at their presence. Darius stepped through first, his armored boots crushing the tendrils underfoot. They shrieked like dying animals. Jace checked his plasma lance. Subtle. Naomi ignited her vibroblades, the blue glow cutting through the Nexus's eerie bioluminescence. Who said anything about subtle? They moved deeper into the Nexus, the walls breathing around them. The air was thick with the scent of rotting meat and ozone. Strange, wet noises echoed from unseen chambers, and shadows moved just beyond sight. Then the Vorith found them. They came in a wave, dozens of the chitinous warriors, their claws dripping acid, their mandibles clicking in unison. Jace didn't hesitate. His plasma lance roared to life, cutting a swath through the first rank. The smell of burning chitin filled the corridor. Naomi leapt into the fray, her blades a whirlwind of death. Dibs on the big one. Darius simply walked forward. Where his armored fist struck, Vorith exploded. Mira, hanging back to guard their rear, picked off stragglers with precise headshots. You know, this would be easier if we had, say, an army. Jace ducked under a scything claw and retaliated with a point-blank blast. Where's the fun in that? They fought their way to the heart of the Nexus, a vast chamber dominated by a pulsing, tumor-like structure, the hive mind. It quivered at their approach, its surface rippling as if in fear. Naomi wiped Vorith ichor from her face. That's disgusting. Darius studied the hive mind, then reached into his armor storage compartment. He pulled out a compact fusion charge, the kind meant for cracking planetary fortifications. Myra's eyes widened. You brought a planet cracker? Jace grinned. Told you we'd make an impression. The hive mind shuddered violently. Then, from somewhere deep within its folds, a voice emerged, not through sound, but directly into their minds. You're not prey. Naomi blinked. Did that thing just compliment us? You are predators like us. Darius activated the charge. No, he planted it squarely on the hive mind surface. We could be. The explosion tore through the Nexus like a supernova. The Revenant barely made it clear before the entire structure detonated in a fireball that lit up the void. On the bridge, back at the Federation station, the crew erupted